All right, everybody. Welcome to Project and Portfolio 2. Thanks for coming to the live session. And those of you that are watching the recording, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me through Discord or FSO message. You'll see something interesting about this course. It's actually something new I'm trying this month, how there's no weekly deadlines, right? There's no submissions every single week. You still should be submitting each week, but you're able to really work at your own pace. So just to quickly go over the structure in FSO, in the course overview, we have the course policies and things to look out for, professionalism you're used to, as well as information about the conference calls, which is what we're in right now. So each week we'll meet from 3 to 4. I'll go over important things to cover for the week, go over just things to look out for and kind of keeping you on task each week. And then I'll have an open time for just some live Q&A or any just questions. We'll have time to go over mechanics, go over bubble diagrams and maps and things like that as we move forward. And then really just use these hour-long sessions for interactions and reviewing and work as we get further down the degree. All right, I'll also post the archives of these recordings right on that main page. You can go and check out. So in the course policies, make sure that you read through this and understand the material. Make sure you have the tools installed that we're using this month. So the version of Unity, I have a link for the Unity Hub as well. I already passed it. I think I might have passed it already. Oh yeah, down the Unity Hub right here. So this will allow you to have multiple versions installed. Really good way to organize all the versions of Unity that you're using. This external document can be helpful just as a general resources we're using for the class. So review it. You can bookmark it if you want to and come back to these as we're going forward. Different experiments, different assignments, per force terminology. You'll see some additional resources for outside the course. I definitely recommend you check out these videos and resources at your own pace. So getting into the main course, you're going to see two main tasks, two main assignments, and they'll have prerequisites enabled. So the technical tasks are things you're going to be doing in Perforce and Unity and getting ready to actually prepare to build your level. So the technical tasks prove that you can build your level itself, and the design tasks are focused on creating the level and planning out the level you're going to build in future months in level design. All right, so each one of these are separate, so you'll have to complete the level design document to unlock the bubble diagram. You'll have to complete the project setup to attempt the control station, and so on and so forth. So work at these at your own pace. I encourage everyone to try to complete at least one technical task and one design task each week. And then you'll have week 3 and 4 to work on your map. Right? So week 1, do your level design document. Week 2, work on your bubble diagram. Then week 3 and 4, the map. And then kind of the same thing for the technical. Week 1 for project setup, week 2 for control station, week 3 for the wind turbine, and then week 4 for entryway and simple setup. Right? If you get ahead, that's great. Right? Giving you more time to polish these portfolio pieces, ask questions, troubleshoot any issues you're coming up with or running into. All right. I've also just mocked up a small rough schedule for you guys to follow, or something to compare to see where you're at and where you're at currently in the month. So feel free to take a screenshot of this if you want to and save it. I know that GD1 uses something similar. They have something called a course at a glance. So this isn't like a strict schedule, but just more of like, hey, by this day you should have this thing done or be working on this, right? You'll also notice I have the weekends completely empty, right? Woohoo, you get some free time. Also just kind of like, if you didn't get anything done during the week, you have the weekend to catch up with these prior activities. So anywhere this says research, so it says like, yesterday, hopefully you guys, at least read through the creative vision. Research is referring to watching the videos and the playlists or the information before you actually start the assignment. That's what I'm considering research. So for example, in the level design document, this material here. So reading through the game design document, checking out the video playlist. This is the pretty much the live lectures I do on campus, but I break them down into modular videos. So if you're like, man, I really don't know what to do for my featured asset, you can come and watch the featured asset video. So I recommend just watching these through start to finish. Just put them on. It'll autoplay and just jump to the next video. Not super long, really easy to digest. You can pause at any point or stop at a certain video and pick up where you left off, and then come back and reference them if you need more detail later on. So back to the calendar, when I say research, that's what I'm just talking about, like getting ready and prepare yourself to do the main assignment. All right, so then today, Tuesday, which is the day I'm doing this lecture, install the tools, right? So make sure you have Perforce installed, make sure you have the right version of Unity, and then project setup. Get your project set up and ready to go. And once I'm done explaining all this stuff, I'm going to actually pull up Perforce, explain some of the tools, and set up my project for the month. All right, so then, Wednesday, try to start to come up with ideas for your level design document. Come up with, what are 10 different player goals in my level? What are the mechanics I could potentially use? And again, you really get a good starting point by watching those videos where I explain the mechanics, how we want them to be broken down, and what you can do going forward. All right, then make your post and reply, and then use the weekend to catch up anything you missed, right, or get started earlier on these next activities. So each Tuesday, I'll kind of just break down, what you should be working on each week. But this is just, me putting my thoughts and what I want the structure of the course to look like. This is kind of where your head should be at each day as you're going forward. All right. So going back to FSO, if I go ahead, let me close these. If I go back to, so I'm looking at it and I go to design tasks and I go to level design document. All the assignments, I have an external link. So if you don't like these embedded windows here, I know sometimes it's easy to miss some information. You can open in a new tab, and this will basically be the same assignment, just in a separate tab. All right, so definitely check out this previous information from the before you get started on the level design document. Also at the top here, before I get ahead of myself, we have the Scraps Training Grounds. This is an executable you can download and play, and really get a feel for the controls, feel for the grab null. It's not a complete level, but there's small gameplay setups, there's small interactions where you can start to visualize what a level could be like, and just kind of getting you comfortable and getting used to the controller. Once you set up, this is a little bit old. We are currently in the progress of making a new one with the new grab null system that's updated. You can go ahead and play the outpost scene, and you'll see a small little tutorial area where it gets you kind of the same thing, feel for the controls and how the game plays. So definitely read through the creative vision. That can also be found in the game design document. So I'm just going to open this up real quick. All right. So in the game design document, I recommend everybody in this course really familiarize yourself with the overview. Everything in here you want to start to get comfortable from, even understanding the pause menu and how to jump between checkpoints, something that will save you a bunch of time this month when you're testing your work. But starting with the creative vision, talking about what Scraps is all about, really breaking down what it is we're looking for, the themes of the overall game, the three design pillars of the game, right? So the vision of the game, what we're trying to build with the game Scraps is, manipulating objects within the environment, affecting things, having some cause and effect with something in the environment, manipulating it to get out of the way, solve some problem, overcome some obstacle, right? Scavenging, right? Just collecting items, valuable things or things kind of going alongside manipulation, collecting the items in the environment and using them for something, right? So storing things in your inventory and then putting them and doing them, whatever it may be, whatever you can design and think of. Also just unaccompanied, right? The scrapper is out in the wastelands solo. They're all by themselves. And you as the designer get to come up with what the player does. So there's always ways you can hint that there's other people with you through voiceovers or through little cinematics where the player walks down a hallway, hears a scream, turns the corner, and there's a dead body, right? So you kind of get the feeling like someone's there with you, but you don't ever see the NPC. Right? So then we get into, speaking that, we get into things against the vision, things you want to stay away from. So like repetitive levels where it's just the same room over and over again often doesn't lead for great level design. So we want to stay away of those types of themes. Right? Changing the player, adding in NPCs like I just mentioned, fantasy or sci-fi. Remember, Scraps is grounded in reality. So we should be able to understand why things are working the way they are, right? Really start to think about why things are happening. Just having something where you collect the item and now the door opens, sometimes it's leaving with the player, well, why does that work all of a sudden? Really making sense and having things function how they would in real life is what you want to think about when you're designing your Scraps level. All right, staying away from religious and political references, teleporting and jumping the player between room and room or level to level. Everything's going to be physically connected. All right, so definitely make sure you check these out, read through each one of those details so you know what type of level you're trying to build. Going back to the LDD, right, you can use this template. So I'm going to open up this template here, but I'm also going to really point out this step where I got here in big bold letters, the level layout guide. This is super, super helpful to really just break down each area of the LDD and what it is we're looking for, and pretty much summarizes what you'll see in the videos for the session 1 playlist. All right, so here's a list of themes we have provided to you guys. Definitely pre-approved themes that will work, that we want to see, right? And there's a lot you can do within these, right? But this should get you thinking about where your level can be set, what types of mechanics would exist in this area, and how you can make a unique, compelling level within one of these areas. If you have a theme in mind that you're not seeing on this list, definitely reach out to me and ask if it works. Like, I know someone had wanted to do a bank, right? I'm like, well, a bank is actually just an office building. So there you go. You've got your bank. It's just a type of office building. So a lot of times themes that want to get pitched actually will work just fine. So just reach out to me and let me know if there's something you want to do that doesn't fit in here. But please pick from this list. Don't have, the theme of my level is exploring, right? It's an actual setting of where your level takes place. The goal, right, to give the player a specific reason while they're in their level. The featured asset, right? So the featured asset, I already see some questions in chat about this. I'm going to get to all the questions that you're posting. Think of your featured asset as a problem that takes place within your level, right? Something that you as the player get to interact with, that you have to overcome, right? Some obstacle that is presented to the player that needs some type of interaction. It's something to allow the player to progress. In all cases, showcase what you can do as a designer, right? So something that has a nice cool animation or particle effects, or really draws the player's attention, really creates this memorable experience that we're going for. All right, and then the level mechanics, right? This is the meat of the level, but without the featured asset and the goal, right, it's just going to be a bunch of different setups and a bunch of different pieces of interaction. So this list of experiments can be the starting point of your mechanics, right? To explain the mechanics a little bit further is think of each mechanic as some type of cause and effect. That's going to be the actual interaction, right? So the player stands on a pressure plate and a door opens. So the cause is I stand on the pressure plate or put an item on the pressure plate with the grab null, and the effect is a door opens. So that we want to be consistent across all of the setups, right? So every time you put an item on, or you do, that same interaction, it works consistently across each setup, right? So think of the pressure plate is just the cause. You get to design the effect. What this actually affects is totally up to you. A mechanical lever, this is also a cause, right? The player walks up to a lever, they press E, and something happens. What is that thing? It could be a platform moving up and down. It could be like a hydraulic lift that's moving, a cable lift, different things like that. So object snapping, this is another great one that's extremely versatile. And right now, when I just say object snapping, that's very vague, right? It could be anything. We don't want to just say my mechanic is object snapping. think about what is the object you're snapping into place and what's the effect. So there's a control panel that has gears that are missing, and the player picks up the gears with the grav null, snaps them in place, that powers on that control panel, which then does something, turns a bridge, opens up a door, unlocks a case, which gives you an item, something that's going to be consistent throughout the level. A tripwire is another one that we see. I do know that I'm going through right now and reworking a bunch of the videos for the first session. So I know in there the example shows the tripwire of doing damage. Think of something again as like a cause and effect in the level. So the tripwire, the player walks into it, and as they walk into it, a door shuts, right? So now they need to go back and press a button or pull a lever to reopen the door, and now they need to get through that area without getting hit by the tripwire, avoiding the tripwire from actually triggering. So think of a cause and effect. I've also seen a level, the tripwires turn on turrets. So if you get run through the tripwire, now turrets are active, and now there's a setup that takes place in that area. All right, so let me go back to the level layout guide, because the last main thing I want to mention in here is down here. When we go over a setup, you also see this in the videos. We talk about what a setup is. You keep hearing me say that word over and over again. That's just a core interaction, right? Using a mechanic. So in the Scraps project, we like to differentiate a minor setup and a major setup. So a minor setup is just going to be using the core mechanics. So using the grab null to do an action, move a box to create a platform to jump on, or slide out a piece of the catwalk and jump over a gap, or collect an item and use the item in a door. So you can have that be like a one-off instance of a level of a level interaction without it being your main mechanic, right? Just using the core mechanics you're given, which we have a video for explaining the core mechanics, to create some gameplay. A major setup or a level specific mechanic is using those two level mechanics you're going to design. Then getting into progression, we have IPM, where you're going to introduce, practice, and master each mechanic separately, or we have introduce, practice, and then mastery with a twist. All right, so this is where we can combine the mechanics into a larger gameplay setup. So say, for example, you have exploding barrels and pressure plates, and your pressure plates, well, how they work is they move platforms, okay? So later on in your level, you have a pressure plate on a moving platform. So you put the exploding barrel onto the platform, it moves to another point, you can navigate around as the character, pick up the exploding barrel, and throw it through a destructible object, right? So it's one setup, one interaction that uses both mechanics. If you come up with two compelling mechanics that offer a variety of gameplay, try to design those scenarios, right? Or that's an option you have available to create 6 total setups, right? You should still have introduced both, practice both, and then your first mastery is like an introduction of the two mechanics together, and then the final mastery is the last challenge using those two mechanics together. So as long as you have exactly 6 mechanics of your setups, either one of these can be used. So I'm just going to take a few moments to go through the questions in chat, and then we're going to move forward into Perforce stuff. Also, if you guys have any other questions about what I've covered so far about the design, feel free to post them and I'll get to them. Or you can also use the raised hand feature if you want to use your microphone. Okay, so Christopher says, if the bubble is a reflection of the LDD, when you comment on the LDD so we can move to the bubble. So you'll be able to, once someone posts their LDD, you'll be able to reply and move on to the next assignment. I recommend in the meantime starting to work on the technical assignments, because those do take up a lot of time during the month. So getting the control station completed while someone's posting their LDD will get you in good shape moving forward. What kind of assets will be allowed? So Tyler, I'm guessing you're asking about the featured asset. Overall, it can be some level object that you interact with and that you have to deal with, right? So one good example of this can be, let me show you a wrap-up, how I like to summarize, and I believe it's at the very bottom of this. The level layout guide, here we go. Yeah, so bringing everything together, right? So this is the, I have a slide that can showcase what I mean by bringing everything together. This might also another way to think about your featured asset. So in this is an example, right? So the goal of the level is to break into a bank to find the set of emeralds for the Bastion, right? His wife wants this set of emeralds that she left behind in her lockbox. So that's the goal, is to find that. So now you ask yourself, okay, so what's going to make that challenging? What's stopping the player from just walking in the bank, collecting the emeralds on the ground and leaving, right? So I said, okay, there's some type of vault that's keeping these emeralds locked safe, right? And there's some security system attached to the vault. So that's the featured asset. That's the main problem in the level the player is trying to solve. So now using the two mechanics, the first one being security cameras, and you see here I haven't fully defined the rules of the mechanic. So I could go into more detail, and really I'd want to say, what do I mean by avoid detection? What's the effect? So if the player gets detected by the camera, then a door shuts and the player needs to reset the puzzle and open up the door and try again through the section. Or turrets turn on and now they can shoot the player and the player needs to destroy the turret. So there's some cause and effect, right? I'm just going through the high level in this slide. So that's the first mechanic. The second mechanic would be, I thought to myself, okay, we're set in a bank. What type of things would actually exist here? I would think, well, security cameras, those are definitely in a bank, right? It's a really highly secured building, so there'd definitely be secured security cameras. And if there's this electrical system or this type of electrical security system, there would be some type of fuses or panels that would control all of that. So I thought, as the player, you can rip these pieces out with the grav null or snap them in place to power things on or power things off. Right? So using these two mechanics, you solve puzzles which will unlock the featured asset, the problem, and allow you to get to your goal, which is the emeralds. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. There's a lot of different directions you can take the featured asset. Mainly it wants to be something interactive, something the player has to experience, and something that's unique to your level. You only want there to be one featured asset in the level. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, feel free to keep posting more. So we are essentially designing the levels rather than working directly on them. That's a good question. So in this month, you are designing the level. You are coming up with the ideas. This is the pre-production of this project, and then in level design, the next month, well, actually after statistics for anyone in the extended track or online, after you take statistics, you'll be level design, where you will build the actual level. You'll take the map you've built in my class and bring it into level design and actually construct it. And in the lecture videos, I have a slide that can break down the whole project. I believe it's the project overview, where I go over this slide, talking about each class and kind of how each class builds on the next one. All right, yeah, so Christopher, I'll be taking a look at, if you've submitted your LDD post, I'll take a look and give you some more feedback as to where you're going. Make sure your setups are going the right direction, and then, yeah, you can start working on the technical things so you can then reply to someone once they've gotten their post up. All right. So let me jump over now to the technical task for the week, which is the project setup. All right, and this is a pretty straightforward, a big thing I really want to teach you guys this month, and what I really value this class for, is establishing a workflow and teaching you guys how to use these tools together. I know Unity is a beast of a tool all by itself, or whatever game engine you're using. And Perforce is another beast all by itself. So it's really helpful tool. I know it might seem frustrating sometimes at first. It might be like, well, why are we having to use this thing? But I promise you it will be helpful in the long term. And this month, we give you an opportunity to learn this tool before you get into level design and have to learn the tool and build a project all at once. This class has a bunch of small activities to teach you about Perforce, to teach you about Unity and ProBuilder, getting yourself prepared for then building your actual level in level design. So again, I'm just going to pop out the project setup. You'll see the Perforce setup at the top. Please check this out, even if you've already downloaded in Design Tools. You probably downloaded this one, but this is our old server. We're now using the newer version, so make sure you download 2018.4 and launch that. There's actually a few new features that are in 2018 that are actually really helpful for us and a good way to continue to learn Perforce. Again, nice new features. All right, so make sure you complete the Perforce setup first, and then you can come to the main project setup. Again, this playlist set inside the assignment will walk you through. I'm going to do a very fast version of this. I'm going to skip some of these things, but there's an exercise I do in here. So after I talk about these first few videos, I get into mark for add and checkout. I recommend you guys work through these, like as I'm doing these small activities with the basic text file, to just follow along with me, or at least pay attention and see if you can replicate it. This is like the starting point of the assignment itself, but this is kind of what I hopefully was taken away from Design Tools. I know it's been a long time since then, and you guys weren't actually on the server, but this goes through each action and how it works, because when we get into using Unity, things can start to get pretty complicated pretty quickly. So it's good to watch through these right in the beginning of the month, and then down here where I go adding project to depot, opening the project, importing the package, and compiling a build. This is the main core of the assignment, but I really recommend just watching through all the videos, and then you can reference these later. So if you have a problem with your library folder, you can check out this video. You see the open for read error. If you want to move something on the depot, you can kind of come back to these and reference them throughout the month. All right, so let's jump in. No, yeah, you can. Michael asked, can you delete the old Perforce then? Yes, you can delete the 2015.2. Even when you download the 2018.4, it should just overwrite it, so you won't have both versions. All right, so I'm going to just pop open Perforce. Again, I'm not going to go into as much detail as I did through the videos, just because I want to get through this pretty quickly, and then also give you guys time for questions if there's any finishing up. So I'm just going to briefly highlight what you'll be doing, as well as ways to double check that you turned in the assignment correctly. All right, so once you get to the this is the main login screen. There's the server address for you. Your username is everything before your @ sign of your Full Sail email. I have a demo account, so you guys will see exactly what. So I will be showing exactly what you'll be seeing as a student. So I'm using that account, and then you'll have to be creating a workspace, right? A workspace is just a folder on your computer. That's all it is. It's a place that Perforce references and recognizes. So I recommend changing this name, right? Just don't leave this big long string of text at the end. Make this, probably just your username _FS or your initials _FS. Keep it something really short. If you've got a long last name or a long username, try and use something shorter just to keep the characters down. We actually have to make sure this file path's not too long, or we have problems opening the Unity project. I make one of these each month just as a demonstration, so I'm just going to put the term at the end. But keep in mind, this is a workspace you guys can set up and use your whole time here at Full Sail. It's not just for this class. It's going to be used every time you have a class with Perforce. So once you hit OK, it'll ask you to create a new password. So for when the first time you log in, so it's not going to be shown up for me, but it will ask you to do so. So feel free to do it, and then save your password somewhere. Remember what it is. Write it on a sticky note. Save it somewhere so you remember what your password actually is. All right. So again, I have a video covering all the interface. So check that out for the complete guide. But inside the GDNBS folder, right, so we have the depot and the workspace view. The workspace, again, this is just your computer. Right now I'm looking at my computer. So if I go to show in, I have to go to show in Explorer, right? So if I'm looking at the 1904 folder, looks like I need to copy a file first. So inside the depot, right, you're going to see the IND folder, right? That's this specific month. And I'm simulating right now being a Section 1 student. So this is the class, then the term, which is April, right? We're in the April term, and then you'll be the section. You'll only see your section. So, if you're Section 0, which would be campus, you see S0, Section 1, 2, 3, 4 for your different online sections. Then you see these two folders, compiled and working. All right, these are real important to understand the difference because you're going to see this structure in almost all of your classes after this. All the classes use the same structure. So the working folder, this is your Unity project. This is where the actual working Unity project goes. Your compiled folder is where the executable goes. So once you're done and you're ready to submit a milestone, right, like you're ready to submit to Steam or to Google or Apple, you create a build and submit that build for review. So we have a compiled folder for your Unity project, working folder for your Unity project, compiled folder for your build. Inside these folders, you're going to see these get me files. Notice how right now it says 0 of 1. So I'm just going to select both of the files and then right click and say get latest revision. This copies those files into my workspace. Now here it says 2 files added, right? There's 2 files now in my workspace. So now you can see that folder structure. And now if I try to do show in Explorer, this just opens up a file explorer window. And right now we're looking at the exact same thing, right? So here in Perforce, this workspace view, this is just this window. It's the same thing just through the Perforce interface. So now if I just navigate to working, and inside working, I just create a new folder. And I'm just going to call this last name, first name. And now if I come back over to Perforce and refresh, there's my folder, right? Because I'm just looking in my File Explorer window. All right, so I've created a folder in the working folder on the depot. All right. So inside this GDNBS folder, the main folder for game design, you'll see a folder called AsCore Project. All right. Then inside there, you'll see and you'll have access to Scraps Project. If you try and open up Project Template, it's empty, so don't get tripped up by that. That's just an empty folder. It's just something that Perforce has done now that even if you have permissions to this folder, it shows everything else. But that is just an empty folder. The Scraps Project, this is a Unity project ready for you guys to start building in, and this is the Scraps game. And now we're handing it to you to see what type of awesome levels you can create in it. So I'm going to just get latest revision on the Scraps project, and that's going to copy those files into my workspace. So while this is copying, anybody have any questions so far about Perforce? Christopher, when you tried to set up the ignore list and you ran the command through the command line, did any output happen from the command line? Or did it just go to a new line? Tyler, is someone else edits? Tyler asks if someone else edits our files as the assignment warns about. Is it recoverable? Yeah. So as long as when you're submitting your work to the depot, whatever's on the depot is able to be recovered. So if someone accidentally marks something for delete, we can still get back to whatever is currently on the depot. Alright, so now I have the Scraps project. I can show that in Explorer, and there you can see this is the Unity project. So I can copy the Scraps project. Alright, and now I'm going to go back to my working folder. So I can just click through my file path up here at the top. So go to GDMBS, IND, the month, the section, working. There's my name, and now paste. And again, this is something with your Unity project, the name of it, we want to keep it short. We want to keep that file path as short as possible. I believe if it's the file path to your folder, so this right here, if this character path is, or if this path is longer than 240 characters, I believe, Unity has a hard time compiling the library folder. So I recommend just keeping this name short. I believe the assignment has AJ, like your initials underscore scraps or underscore scraps project. You can just keep it, as short as you can. And now this is your own Unity project for the month, right? You have this project that you can work in. So now I can come over to the workspace and refresh, and there's my project, right? So you have your folder inside of working, and then you have these subfolders, right? Assets, packages, and project settings. So to add a file to the depot, use mark for add. So I'm going to right click on my folder and mark for add. So notice how right now I'm doing this before I open the project in Unity, because these three folders you see here are the only folders we want on the Perforce depot: the assets, packages, and project settings. Once I open Unity, you're going to see a different you're going to see a few more folders that are created. So now I'm just going to add, and just saying adding 1904 IND2 files. Right, and you just want to keep your changeless description concise and clear, just as what it is you're doing. Right? Don't just put in a blank, just a space, or like, just random letters. Just a short description of what it is you're doing, what it is you're adding, so then you can refer back to those or jump back at a different point. Alright, while this is submitting, I'm actually going to open up the project in Unity at the same time. I believe this isn't going to cause any problems. Yeah, Christopher, we'll take a look at your ignore list and why it's not working. I know some people have had some inconsistent issues with it. Some people it works fine, other people's it doesn't go at all, and others it takes them a few tries. I had a similar setup, but we'll take a look at it. Alright, so now I open up the Unity Hub. Right, it looks something like this, and looks like I'm due for an update. Alright, so the first thing you want to do, and if you don't already have it, is in your installs, you can go to official releases, and you can grab 2018.3.11 right from the Unity Hub. I personally like this a lot. I don't require you use the Unity Hub, but I think it's really helpful and just convenient. That way when you install multiple versions of Unity, it just automatically saves them to the right place for you. You don't have to worry about the location of them and overwriting versions. So I recommend it to all my students. So open up the hub, and now I'm going to click open. This is how I recommend you open up your project. And now we want to navigate to where your project is. Now, if you're looking at this window and you're just like, I have no idea where it actually is, one thing you can use is pinning to quick access. So if I just show an Explorer on my project, this project right here, I can pin to my quick access, and now it's in this list here. So if I'm anywhere on my computer, I can just come and click on this, and you don't have to navigate through all those folders over and over again. Just a convenience thing. So now there's my project for the month. Select that and hit select folder. And make sure open it with 2018.11. Alright, so now that the project is loading, you'll see a few other folders appeared, right? So I have the library and the temp folders, right? Those just came out of nowhere. Those we need to make sure do not get added to the depot on Perforce. It can cause you some real annoying headaches if you do. Not the end of the world. We can always fix those issues, but we want to avoid having those on the depot for certain reasons, right? So the library folder is going to be constantly, and let me just open this up. I'm just going to pick a random folder. Let's just see if we see things change in here. So the library folder is going to be constantly changing, right? So files get added and changed and deleted, and Unity's just changing these files constantly in the background while you're working. So, I'm not expecting you to know what the name of this file is, right? That's not even really legible by human mind, right? And look, there's some more that just kind of just appeared. So this library folder is constantly changing as you work in Unity. So if this is on the depot, you'll see by watching in the playlist, I talk about when a file's on the depot, it's marked as read-only. So if it's something on the depot, now Unity's trying to change it, and Perforce is basically the bodyguard saying, nope, you're not allowed to change this unless you tell me. And Unity really tries to change it, and it can't, right? So it will crash, and you'll have to just close Unity and reopen it. But if the library folder is just not on the depot, that doesn't happen, and Unity is able to freely change this folder. This temp folder is similar, but this temp folder only appears when your Unity project is open. So as soon as you close Unity, this whole folder will delete itself and they won't exist. This Unity lock file is what prevents multiple instances of Unity being open at the same time. So these folders, I know that's completely unrelated, but this is the pieces that make up a Unity project. I'm sure you're most familiar with assets and project settings, but understanding the library folder and the temp folder when you're working with version control is really important. Yeah, Christopher, I know what you're talking about. When we go, so like when 2018.4 comes out, I know we'll have to make sure that everything's running smoothly and nothing's majorly broken. And we're really trying this year to keep our Scraps project on the most up-to-date version of Unity as we go forward. The only reason I haven't changed why you're getting the warning about it was built in 2018.3.4 was because the level design documentation isn't on 2018.11 yet, but I've already tested it and everything works with the build, so I wanted to move forward with that newest version for this month. So it's an ever-changing process. Looks like my project's almost done. Let's see if my submission went through. Looks like it's still submitting on the depot. Another just side note I can talk about while it's happening is you notice how these files have a lock on them right now? So what's happening is Perforce is in the middle of a submission. So when that's happening, it will lock those files temporarily to prevent other programs or other users from changing those files. So if you ever see your files are temporarily locked, it's just because either the change list is submitting or you tried to submit and the change list timed out before you could actually finish the submission. So like if you lost internet connection or there was a disconnect, something might have happened, especially when I'm trying to submit a large batch of files at once. While all this is happening, it looks like Unity is almost done loading the project. I just want to come back to the assignment and show you guys how I'm going to review and check your assignments, right? It's not like a big lengthy rubric. There's just each one of these technical activities besides the entryway. The entryway is the big graded assignment. Each one of these have 3 main bullets that I'm looking for that need to be completed, right? So the first one is that your assets, packages, and project settings folders are added to the working folder. So what I'm doing right now in Perforce, adding these 3 folders, assets, packages, and project settings, like you can see here how Charlie has these added. That's the first bullet, right? All 3 folders have been added to the depot. If you just add your assets, you're not going to get credit for that first bullet. So that's the first thing that I'm tackling right now, or that I'm waiting for my submission to happen. The next is the IND2 Unity package has been imported into the project and the contents have been added to the depot. So this Unity project that I have loaded up, this is generic for my class, for level design, and for PMP3. We all use the exact same template. So right when you start up the project, go ahead and clear the console and open up the Scraps Outpost. Just go ahead and hit play. Make sure your character works. Make sure there's no major errors in the console. Nothing's preventing you from entering play mode. Make sure that this works all by itself. That Pro Builder file error you're seeing at the bottom, we are going to talk about how to fix that and how to work with those files. But here you can see the little outpost section. You can go ahead and get a feel for the game. You can kind of explain how to play, get a feel for the character, the different tools we have available to you. Let's see if I don't mess up this jump. Yeah, I messed it up. Alright, but this little outpost scene, right, this is your tutorial area. This is where the player learns a feel for the controls, where we understand how to play the game. And then you're going to be building the next level for this. Alright, made it. Alright? So make sure this works before you move on to the next step, and if it doesn't, reach out to me through Discord or FSO, whatever means you prefer, and make sure that's up to par. It looks like the submission is still happening. Let's see if it lets me do another action at the same time. So the next thing we're going to need is in the resources folder, right? So inside the IND is the resources. This is the package for this course specifically. So I'm going to go ahead and get latest revision, and it's going to copy this Unity package to my workspace, right? And we're going to import that into I'll let it catch up for a few seconds and see if I finish. Maybe if I close down Perforce while I'm in Unity, if it helps with the delay. Just trying to reopen Perforce and see what's up. Alright, so I got the Unity package. Is it any better on your end now, or is it still giving you issues? Let's see. Yeah, it looks like there's a little bit of a delay, so I'll try not to move the camera too fast and too quickly through when I'm using Unity. But I have that package from the resources folder in my workspace. So now on the assets folder, I'm just going to import that package, right? So import package, custom package, and now find your package you have, right? So go to IND and then resources and select the Unity package. All right, I'm going ahead and hit open. So what this package includes is assets and a scene for you guys to work in all month. So you don't have to create a scene. You don't have to create new scenes for each activity. What you're going to do is add this to the depot and then get practice checking out these files, saving and submitting, right? And really getting practice reiterating using Perforce as part of your workflow. All right, so you guys can see down here in the assets folder, these scraps folders. All right, so they have scraps underscore at the beginning. All of these are the core game that you don't want to add things to these or change any of these files. You're going to use like the scraps tools, right? And you use the scrap scene by loading it, but you don't want to edit or change any of these files. These are the game files. The IND229 folder, this is where you're going to add your new stuff, where you're going to check out, make changes, get practice with with ProBuilder and Perforce, and develop your skills even further. So next month, or in level design, when you get to that course, basically you're going to create your own version of the same folder. So it can be the Andrew O'Connor level design folder, and that just gets added to part of my project. Anything you use for your level will go into that folder, and that way it makes exporting much easier at the end of level design. So this month I give you guys a folder structure. You'll see inside this folder there's a folder for each assignment. So when you work on your control station, things will go in this folder, entryway and entryway, simple setup, etc., etc. That's just so you get used to organizing your files on Perforce, and then once you understand how Perforce works, you can organize them however way you'd like to. All right, so here's the IND2 experiment scene in the IND2 folder. I can just drag and drop this into the outpost. All right, and you'll see there is the scene where you'll actually be able to build and work on each activity for this month. So when I go ahead and play, you can use the checkpoint system to jump between locations. And I have a checkpoint included for you guys, so if you hit escape, you can click on IND2 experiments and then click escape again, and it will jump you to that point. So that way you can test your work really easily. You don't have to walk to this area over and over again. You're able to quickly come over to this space. All right, so this is where you're going to build your assignments, and also this is the file you're going to check out and modify on Perforce, starting with the control station. All right, so I have this IND2 folder in my project, right? I've imported it, but I haven't yet added it to the depot. So I think Perforce is still chugging a bit for me, but let's try to, this folder here, right? I want to make sure I mark this for add. So let me see if I can just mark for add my entire assets folder. Actually, I'm just going to revert this. I'm going to try and just mark for add in a smaller chunk and see if that goes through. All right, so select mark for add on assets. All right, now I'm going to submit. Adding. Okay, now we got something going. We'll see how this goes, and then I'll make sure I add my packages and project settings. All right, so once this is added, if you come over here and check out Charlie's submission, you'll see inside the assets folder is the IND2 folder, and there is the scene and everything inside the IND2 folder. So that's the second requirement. So the first one is the assets, packages, and project settings are on the depot. And then the second bullet is that your IND2 folder is inside the assets folder. All right. So let's let that submit and check out the last thing you need to make sure you're doing for this, and that's submitting a build. So a complete build is inside of the compiled folder. All right, so let's jump into Unity and just make a build of our two scenes together. So I'm just going to go to File, Build Settings. All right, once you have the build settings open, you can either drag your experiment scene into the menu or just hit Add Open Scenes with that scene open. Right? Make sure it's at the very bottom. It should be below the scene here called Level Scenes below this scene. And this will allow you to additively load multiple scenes with the outpost. So right now when we play in Unity, how both scenes are there, we have a script in the outpost that's looking in the build settings for additional scenes when you make a build, and it will load them additively. So that way when you get to be in a team project, you can have my scene and Christopher's scene and Tyler's scene all in the build settings, and they'll all load together like one big level. All right, so for this month, we're just going to have the experiment scene, and we're going to hit build. Now it's asking for where do you want to save the build. So go to the compiled folder, compiled, and now inside here I can just right click, make a new folder. This again is last name, first name, and then hit select folder. Alright, so I'm going to wait a minute or two, probably going to be a second for Perforce to finish submitting, and then let my build go. But while that's going, does anybody have any questions so far? Maybe is anyone running into any problems with the project setup up until this point? Connecting to Perforce, getting the files, anything I can help you guys with? I know Christopher's still got that issue with the ignore list. Alright, so once the build finishes, you'll see this window pops up. And these are all the files that Unity generated, right? And they're all real important. You got to make sure everything's included in this folder and that it all gets added to the depot. So what you can do right before you add it is just test the build. I'm just going to double click on it and just launch it, right? Make sure first that the build works and that it has what you're expecting. Even if it's something simple like this where you're just setting up the project, still make sure that the build is working as intended. You're not spawning a million infinite characters and the scene isn't missing, that everything compiled and works correctly. All right, just take a few seconds to test it. Again, it's just about starting to force these work habits so that when you get to like the entryway or later in level design or big massive milestones in final project, you guys are just so used to testing your work by that point, it's just second nature. Alright, so all of these files here need to get added to the depot. So you see, if I try to like delete this Unity DLL and run the executable, I get an error, right, saying I can't because the Unity DLL is missing. So it's really important that you submit all of these files to Perforce. Again, my submission is still going through on my assets folder, but once that finishes, I'm going to come to the workspace, and there's my compiled folder, and there's all of those files. Notice they all have that white piece of paper, meaning those are files that are in my workspace, but not in the depot. So that's I'm going to come to my folder and mark for add, and then submit. So we come back and take a look at Charlie's. Charlie's got his assets, packages, and project settings with the IND2 folder inside of assets. And then in compiled, there's Charlie's build, and it has the executable, right? All of those same files I had with the data folder and the mono bleeding edge. All right, same thing with those folders, right? If I come over here and try to delete my data folder, kind of like simulating what it'd be like if you don't submit it to Perforce, and I try to get latest and play your game, that's the error I get, right? Saying there should be a data folder next to the executable. Alright, so that pretty much wraps up the first week, so I'm going to bring this recording to a close. If anyone that's watching this video on YouTube has any questions or any issues about the project setup or about getting your files from the depot or even anything about your design, feel free to contact me through Discord or FSO, and I'd be happy to help you out. All right, thanks for watching.